right in there. We're in your city. Yeah, that's
My
right.
hair is okay.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
All
yes.
right, and away we go. All right. Let's hit this. All right. Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality. And we're going to have another co-host here, Russell Jackman, who has been on the show before, and he's actually been a manager of an independent wrestling federation, we'll call it. But our special guest today is David Spitz, who's going to come on in the next segment because we got to go through our quick little intro of what we're doing today. And he's an athletic trainer. He's referred by Steve Baker, who's a sports agent, who's been on our show many, many times. So at each commercial break, we're going to ask a trivia question. And today's theme is sports facts. So we'll see if you guys know the answer to that. And
I'm good with sports facts.
Yes, you are. And let me see about these. Okay, so I got a hard one, and I think two easy ones for you. Okay, but they're different sports. It's not just baseball.
Okay.
Which we know we all love baseball. And let's see. This segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are still currently yielding over 7.5% secured by Bay Area real estate, mostly Bay Area. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. You got to check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com.
Don't ever say conservative to a liberal like me.
Yeah. Oh, yes. In fact, Bruce and I have always talked about doing point counterpoint.
Yeah, we have a fun time.
We would, because I'm the conservative one.
I like your camera, by the way.
Do you like that?
Cool. Yeah. Except for it's not a very flattering picture of me. You look like, you're.
Yeah, I got the big schnoz here.
Russell and I are just sitting over here looking like we just woke up out of bed.
No, we should do a pointer count because I'm the intelligent one and you're the liberal.
That's
okay.
I
got you on that one.
And Russell's going to stay out of that one.
Yeah, I know.
If I ever want to be reinvited back.
That's right. That's okay. Listen, we all have to respect each other's opinions.
That's right. That's why it's America. We all have different stripes politically.
That's right. And this is a sports show, so we try not to get into too
but
much
in sports, everybody's just having fun. That's why we get into sports, so we don't.
And it doesn't get political at all.
No, never.
All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. When we come back, we're going to have David Spitz on, who's an athletic trainer. He's going to tell us all about training. Don't touch that up.
All right, so you're not related to Mark Spitz, are you, David?
No.
Okay.
So now just say
probably get that a lot.
File.
Yeah, you probably get that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, we probably are related at some distant point.
What is Mark Spitz doing these days? He was a dentist for a while, wasn't he?
Really?
Yeah. He had a dental practice, and I think he's probably retired by now because he's probably going to be close to 70.
Yeah, say 72. He was.
Is he really?
No. I mean, in 72, he was
72. Well, you think about it, he was like 22 then, so he was born probably about 1950.
50, so yeah.
Yeah, so he'd be close to 70. God, it's hard to believe if you're born in 50, you're close to 70. I feel like I'm close to 70 this morning. I got home, got to bed the last few nights from work at like 1 o'clock, and then my wife wakes me up to take my daughter to school, and I don't operate well with 6 to 7 hours of sleep. I have to have 8.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. 7 is okay, but 6 hours is just, I feel like I need to go back to sleep right now.
Okay.
But I'll try not to show that.
Thank you, Brian.
I have my cup of coffee.
With my 7-year-old twins, I need like about 8.
Oh my God. 7-year-old twins. Holy moly.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, okay.
Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Bruce McGowan and our other special co-host, Russell Jackman. All right, on the phone, we have David Spitz, who is an athletic trainer. David, welcome to the best. I have another radio show called The Best of Investing. I recorded yesterday. Welcome to Sports Econ 101.
Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
I think we've had David on before.
No, this is first time. It's first
okay.
time. We had someone else who was athletic trainer.
Oh, right.
Not as good as David.
Not as good as David, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so David, off air we'd asked you, but I'll ask you again. Do you have a specialty sport that you like? Is it mostly football players or is it across the gambit?
Well, I think, like I said before, I'm sport agnostic. So we have a variety of sports that we work with here. Everything from swimming to golf and volleyball, rugby. But really where our expertise lies is in peak performance. And what I mean by that is setting an anchor date at some point in time and training up to achieve some sort of really desirable result at that anchor date.
Is there different kind of
combine is perfect for us.
I mean, I got to think that there's different kind of training for different sports. You know, like in maybe you don't do a bunch of weightlifting for swimming and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean there is, but at the end of the day, we believe that building a better athlete is going to make a better baseball player. Building a better athlete is going to make a better sprinter in the pool. So it's one of those things where you do have to keep in mind the different energy systems that are required. But at the end of the day, everybody needs strength and power and flexibility and mobility and balance and symmetry. Those types of things that just are very general qualities are important across all sports.
Yeah, those are the things that I've sadly lost over the years, and every time I get up now, I'm lucky enough if I am able to maintain my balance. Got to ask you though about training, because it just seems like the field has gotten so much more sophisticated. Back when I was a kid in the 1960s, there were trainers, but it was very rudimentary, and now it's become so specialized. I mean, when did the revolution in training really begin, David?
Well, I think that there is something to be said for just the advent of strength and conditioning in the college game. So the idea that Oklahoma started a strength and conditioning program way back in the day, in the 70s, and that kind of just spawned this whole revolution for, hey, you know what, if we build better athletes, not only will they be able to run faster and hit harder, but they stay more durable. So we get more out of them on the field. They spend less time in the training room treating injuries, and so it became just a tool to help athletes achieve their goals, to help coaches achieve their goals. So,
I guess that's how isn't that how they got Gatorade, right? They did it for the Florida Gators.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, the way I look at it is every day I wake up without a toe tag on, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I had a question, and that is, we're seeing a lot of specialization going on with kids these days. I have 6-year-old twins, and I'm already seeing parents that are trying to specialize their kids into one area of sports or another, whereas when I was younger, we just tried to do everything, and we did it all very poorly. So I don't know, what are you seeing as far as like parents trying to push their kids? Is there a level at which you say that maybe they should back off and let kids be kids, or is now, hey, everything is so specialized, if you don't get them going by 6 or 7 years old, forget it, they'll never be Olympic athletes or whatever?
Well, I think that's a great question, and some of it is sports specific. So if you don't start specializing in gymnastics until you're 11 years old, that ship has sailed. So there are some sports where you have to have early specialization because the peak of the life cycle for that athlete is much younger. But for most sports, and especially the team sports that we know and love, from baseball, basketball, football, we really advocate a general application of training in the early stages. So different sensitivity periods exist throughout your development, but for me personally, I have an athletic life plan that I built for all my children. I have a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old, and everything starts with swimming in the pool, and then we introduce gymnastics, and then we work into some bilaterally symmetrical sports like track and field, to learn to sprint and to run properly, and then weightlifting to be able to move and produce force and receive force properly. And then, we'll work into the bilaterally symmetrical team sports like basketball and soccer. But, until they get a decent framework of athleticism underneath their belt, we really, really try to not specialize.
Well, it's interesting too, is someone sent me this YouTube about an older guy and how he trains. And this guy is like in his late 70s. And it's amazing the kind of stuff he can do. And he just does it at home in his backyard. And I think a lot of it is just, it's balance. And then it's got to be really good for your brain. I mean, it's funny. I drive a scooter / motorcycle. And I'm thinking that the thing that's good about that is it keeps my brain like having to balance myself. And, over time, I mean, I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do it. I'm 58 right now, but, I'm hoping to keep doing it for another 20 years.
You said it correctly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just keep everyone off the road, and I'll be fine. So, hey, if you don't like the way I drive, stay off the sidewalk.
Well, what's interesting, relating to what he was talking about, is there have been pro athletes that I've spoken with. For instance, Christian Okoye. I don't know if you guys know this.
Yeah, the Nigerian nightcap.
Yeah, he never played football as a kid, but he was just such a natural athlete. He picked it up. Basketball is the same thing. I've heard stories of pro athletes who didn't play until they were 16, 17. And I think certain sports, they're not so specialized. Baseball, you cannot just suddenly pick it up at the age of 14 and become, a star. You have to really, get into it at a young age. But football, basketball, maybe even soccer, I don't know. So I guess every sport sort of requires a different approach, obviously. And from the training standpoint, that's probably true as well.
Yeah, but again, like the better athletes are going to make better baseball players. So what I can do here in a weight room is only influence your athleticism. I can't ever get you to hit a round ball with a round bat better. That's up to your hitting coach.
Can't get you to hit that 95-mile-an-hour slider.
Well, hand-eye coordination. I got to think that you work a lot with the core, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's obviously that's going to influence a lot of your stability, and the ability to produce force requires you to have a strong pillar to work through. So not just are we looking at the sequence of how the muscles fire from the leg, all that force starts proximally and moves distally. So the hips are the engine for force, and then it works down through the leg.
And if you could take 15 pounds off my middle section, I could see the core. Yeah, but it's interesting too. It's like I remember when we were like kids, they would to swing a bat, they'd say "squish the bug." That'd be.
I never heard that.
You ever heard that?
No.
Yeah. But then the thing is, as you get older, you take your left foot. If you watch these power hitters, their left foot, if they're a right-handed hitter, is not on the ground. It's tipped up on the outside step. You know what I mean?
He used to really do that a lot. If you watch old highlight films of this guy, he was a left-handed hitter, but he raised his right foot up. Was Mel Ott.
Oh, yeah.
Very unusual. And I guess Sadahiro had a weird.
Yeah, he did. That's right. Exactly.
Weird kind of an approach. But yeah, you're right. You lift that foot up, it becomes part of your routine.
No, I'm talking about at the end.
Oh, at the end,
At the end, right?
Yeah,
if you watch these power hitters, watch their, if they're right-handed hitting, watch their left foot. And
watch the left foot,
it's curved out.
Interesting.
Yeah. I would watch power hitting, but I've been watching the Giants recently.
Oh.
That's kind of a hard one. Hey, guys.
Bruce Bochy. The Giants manager has got to be shaking his head.
What's the record right now?
Well, as we
7
speak,
and 12.
7 and 12. They haven't won a series yet. Have not won a series yet.
Wait a minute, hold on. If I was a baseball player and I was 7 and 12, I think I'd be very happy. If I was hitting that.
7
for 19.
Yeah, not as a team.
Or 7 for 19. Yeah, I'd be happy with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want that as a team, though.
Not as a team. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to cut to our first commercial break. We're talking about just sports facts. By the way, David, if you know the answer to this, don't answer yet, because when we come back, we'll see if you can.
If you answer it, Ed, we're just going to discipline you.
Yeah, because remember, we're cutting to break. We don't want you to answer it.
You don't want this guy mad at you either. Let me tell you, he's just a meanie.
You don't want me.
I'm not very smart. So
Hey, listen, we all had 6 years of high school. What is the state sport of Maryland?
Ooh, good question.
There's a state sport.
I bet you I know. I
think you know it? Okay.
Good idea.
All right, don't touch that dial. The best. I can't. Boy, I got to remember what show
It's
I'm
okay. It's Friday. You're entitled to be a little.
Econ 101. I'll be right back. Again, I recorded yesterday. I'm used to recording.
My brain is not working at all.
The segments are so easy to do.
I feel like I want to I just didn't get enough sleep last night. I feel like I'm going to go home and take a nap. Well, at night it's easy because I'm full of energy.
Are we going to get into the economics of?
Oh, please.
Sure.
Yeah, actually.
Whatever you want to talk about. You're the guest. You turn it.
Yeah, I love actually.
But it's been pretty interesting.
Yeah, we're very loose in terms of the way we approach this. Just bring a guest on and let him go.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'd actually appreciate to talk about the economics of it.
Yeah.
But I thought
from what the audience is expecting, though, is there?
No, it's
these athletes is almost like a private placement investment for these agents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
That's substantial amounts of money up front, and then it's 3 to 5 year returns.
Oh, good. Yeah. No, so
That's
definitely
true.
let's get into that.
Okay.
All right. Ready? Here we go. We're going to answer the trivia question, then we'll go right back to that. Okay. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan and our special co-host, Russell Jackman.
Better known as RJ.
RJ. Okay, I like that.
Buddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Buddy?
Yeah,
Is that your nickname?
Buddy Sotelo.
Buddy Sotelo.
Oh,
that was
right.
a stage
Yeah,
name.
that
Yeah.
was a stage name.
All right. So,
Yeah, Buddy.
for first trivia question, what is the state sport of Maryland?
You want to take a guess? Because I've got a pretty good
Let's
idea.
first see if our guest,
Let's see if
David Spitz,
It's got to have something to do with crab cakes, right?
the crab eating contest. No, Okay, Russell, do you know
Russell,
the
that's
answer?
I was going to say lacrosse.
That's
Yeah.
what I said. Lacrosse.
Jousting.
Jousting? Who would have come up with that? Is that
Probably
mean on
someone
the
in the
horses?
1500s, yeah.
The horses with the. They actually still have that?
I don't know.
That's
But
a dangerous sport.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Renaissance Fair must
Probably,
That's dangerous.
They'll
Even
poke
if,
your eye out.
even if you have a shield, you get knocked off the horse, you could break your neck.
You know, it's funny. I saw a Renaissance Fair one. They were doing the jousting.
Really?
And this one guy hit the other guy actually in the head.
Ooh.
Now, they had the helmets on,
Yeah.
but, he fell off the horse. It's like, man, that's got to hurt.
And he was up on his feet in a matter of seconds,
Yeah.
though, right?
Yeah. All right. So our special guest is David Spitz, who's an athletic trainer. And David, you wanted to get into the economics of athletic training. I'd love to talk to you about that.
Well, we can get into the economics. We can talk about why it's important. Why would an agent hire me to prepare their players for the upcoming scouting combine or their pro day events?
Please.
Whatever.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that first. The economics is interesting, but how do you get, for instance, how do you get hooked up with agents who say, hey, David, I'd like you to work with this athlete I just signed with the 49ers, and he needs, to get in shape or whatever. How does that happen?
Yeah, well, to back up, I've been doing this for about 9 years now, preparing athletes for the scouting combine and for their individual pro day events. And so if you can imagine like your college admission requirements, you have your GPA and you have your ACT or your SAT score. And so just like that, when the players come out from college and are working their way into the NFL, their game film that they put down while they were in school represents their GPA, and then their combine scores or their quantitative scores of their pro day represent their ACT or SAT. So it gives teams an objective opportunity to evaluate athleticism and really look at whether this particular player is backing up with their athleticism what these scouts, what these GMs, what these decision makers are seeing on film.
Yeah, because I was thinking also, like when they go to the combine, they run a 40-yard dash and 4.2. I mean, if you're going to help them run it at 4.1, it's going to make that much difference. I mean, I can imagine these not the scouts, but I mean the agents realizing that their paycheck could be severely enhanced or the other way around. So I could see them hiring you and saying, listen, you got to get this guy to this certain level so he can get this kind of contract, right?
Well, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Whether we go in the first round, the second round,
Yeah.
the third round, these teams, if you have two tight ends that are pretty much identical in terms of your grade, if you're a GM, they're the same height, the same weight. This happens a lot. How are you going to differentiate between tight end 1A and 1B? Well, you're going to look at their combine events. You're going to look at, how well they tested.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you get paid? Like, can you make part of your pay say, hey, listen, if the guy goes in the first round, I want this kind of a bonus, or I mean, not want to, but I mean, like, some kind of incentive for you too.
Yeah, I mean that's
good.
That's
right.
definitely part of how we work with agents. They will give us a de minimis upfront payment, and then we'll bonus out based upon round status. But mostly, what I do is I just work on a fee basis. And so, when we talk about preparing a player, this is not just them coming to the gym a couple times a week. This is us taking on every aspect of their preparation, because this is where the numbers are concerned important, but also they have to be able to interview well, and they have to be able to conduct themselves like professionals, because that's what they're doing. They're interviewing for a job.
Athletic Director David Spitz is joining us here on Sports Econ 101. I got to ask you, you've worked obviously with a lot of well-known athletes over the years, some that aren't well-known, but can you give us a little, a little story about maybe one or two guys and some interesting little highlights that the fans might find interesting about these guys, and that make them more human, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
I like that.
Guys like Zach Ertz, for example, who's the starting tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's been, a part of our gym for, as long as I can remember. From his earliest years at Monta Vista through Stanford into the pros, we did his combine preparation, and he and I I was actually in his wedding this last year with Julie Johnston at that time.
Isn't she an athlete too? I think she's it also, isn't she?
Yeah, she's a world-class soccer player.
Yeah.
One of our best players on our national team.
Mm-hmm.
But when Zach hauled in that touchdown pass, when we were sitting in the end zone this year in Minnesota to win the Super Bowl, I mean, that kind of stuff is really,
that's awesome.
Just incredible. And to see, a young man that's so buttoned up all the time, just let loose as he realized this lifelong dream. I mean, that's the type of stuff that, just kind of once in a lifetime opportunities that we get to be a part of.
I mean, I was thinking about how, like we were talking earlier about how, your pay might be tied in with how well someone does at a combine. And I'm thinking, if I'm you and I'm going to have, potentially a lot bigger payday if someone goes in the first round, I'm going to have a guy babysit that player and say, no pizza, stay off the carbs. I mean, you have to really watch what they do.
Well, I mean, that's exactly right. And during the pre-draft process, that lasts somewhere between 8 to 10 weeks. And these guys come and live here. So we rent houses. Yeah. We take care of everything from their nutrition. So every single meal that they eat is custom built for them based upon where we want them to be, either in an energy deficit or an energy surplus or a maintenance, and is tied into exactly what we're doing in the training at that time. And then your speed work, your linear speed, so working on the 40, and then your lateral speed, because you have the 5-10-5 and the L drill to work on. Your weightlifting, so the things that kind of influence your rate of force production out during these drills. Lift 4 days a week, and then developing a physique that makes you even more appealing. Everybody likes to see a jacked specimen on stage, and wants to draft the guy with the six-pack abs and the broad shoulders and the big butt. But
sometimes that doesn't translate into a good athlete. I mean, there have been some athletes I've seen that look like guys that are refugees from beer leagues that are just tremendous athletes. Johnny Cueto. Well, baseball especially, but I noticed in there are other guys that look like they're Carl Lewis incarnate, and they can't do anything on the field. I've seen a few of those guys too. So I guess it does help if you're in great shape, but it's not necessarily a guarantee, is it?
I got better than a six-pack. I got a keg.
Yeah.
I like that. That's good.
You like that?
Edward's on his A game here today. Is this thing on?
I actually have what I would consider a tough question, because I work with a lot of people who are training to become professional wrestlers. So there's a parallel to what you do, and I think one of the toughest things that we ever had to deal with was when you have to tell someone that their dream is over and that they're not going to make it. How do you deal with that when you have to tell someone that they're just not going to meet the goals that they've set, and that no matter what you guys try, it's not going to happen?
Yeah, well, that's a fantastic question. So the idea that we set out with goals that are going to help the player succeed where they want to be draft status wise, what they want to accomplish in the NFL. We kind of lay out what teams are expecting them to run. And we have a day called Reality Day, where I bring out the laser timing system and I bring out the steel tape, and we run through exactly where they are on that day, because that's what matters, right? Like where you are today is what's important, not what your all-time best were, not what you ran in high school. Where you are today and where we can get you. And sometimes there's a discrepancy there, because I can only do so much. On the 40-yard dash, if I can take off 0.3 of a second from your time. So if you run a 5.0 on day one, if I can get to a 4.7, that's about what I'm capable of in 8 to 10 weeks of training.
And what percentage of athletes use an athletic trainer like you?
Anybody that is got a draft grade, he's going to want to work with somebody like me. And really, that's part of the expectations of the business now. So the idea that, if you're going to sign with an agent, part of your expectation is that he's going to help invest and pay for training.
Good. Yeah. Good point. If you don't mind me asking, generally, what does it cost to hire you or someone like you for an 8-week period?
We are somewhere around $1,200 a week to prepare these guys. So for a 10-week program, you're looking at $12,000 basically.
That's worth it when you're going to get an extra $1 million on a contract.
Yeah, I mean, but for the most part, these guys are, we all know what the rookie contracts look like. They're not exactly what they once were. So, if you're looking at a 7th round pick, let's say, you've got pick 256 or whatnot, and you've got a compensatory pick. You're looking at a signing bonus of about $69,000 and a first year salary that's not guaranteed of $497,000.
Yeah, but you know what though? It could be the difference between getting drafted and not getting drafted.
And we're talking about the NFL here.
Yeah, specifically
right.
NFL.
Yeah.
So David Spitz, thank you so much for joining us. We'll definitely have to have you on again on Sports Econ 101. It's been a pleasure having you.
All right, thanks guys.
All right.
All right, good deal.
Good stuff.
Interesting stuff.
All right, so we have to get to a quick commercial break here. Second trivia question. Who merged with the struggling Cleveland Barons in 1978? The Cleveland Barons.
Cleveland Barons.
In 1978. What team?
You're talking about hockey.
Well, how did you know that? That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. Okay, Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back.
Cleveland Barons were the old Oakland Seals.
Wow, that's
the Seals moved to Cleveland, and then they became, I believe,
my hockey knowledge couldn't be less.
I believe they became the Minnesota North Stars.
Hockey, golf, NASCAR, you'll do tennis. I don't know. You'll kill me in any of those subjects. Surfing.
No,
wait a second. The Cleveland Barons. Oh well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about those. We'll figure this out.
I think we're all baseball fans, right?
We are.
Yeah.
Baseball.
But my little trivia on baseball isn't as good. NBA is where I
really?
Yes.
Okay. Who never fouled out in a game?
Well,
never fouled out in a game.
Well,
a guy who played.
Well, and he was never
that.
even technicaled out.
I thought you were talking about baseball popping out.
No.
Come on.
Yeah, that would be something.
That would be something.
Well, I guess if you had like one at bat, you retired, then.
So
that's right.
Don Mattingly.
Will never really did fill out. Got fouls.
Oh, sorry. Don Mattingly only had 19 pop-ups
in
his career.
That's pretty wild.
He also had one of the lowest strikeout per at-bat ratios.
Exactly.
I think Belt had that 2 games ago.
You know that Joe DiMaggio only struck out, I think, 500 times, something like 500 times in his entire 14 years in Major League Baseball. You think about
baseball
that.
Is just so different.
That's pretty good.
I mean, baseball as a species is just a completely different animal as it is today as it was.
Oh, the stats today are ridiculous. The whip and all this stuff.
I know. The whip.
The WAR. Come on, just batting average, hits, home runs, RBIs. Those are the things to worry about.
And the thing is, the unfair part about RBIs is you have to have guys on base.
That's right.
Unless you're hitting home runs all the time.
Yeah.
All right, you ready? We're going to get into what's going on in wrestling.
Oh, okay, great.
Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Bruce McGowan and Russell Jackman. Those are great segments we had with David Spitz.
Very informative.
It was good. Okay, so second trivia question. Who merged with the struggling Cleveland Barons in 1978?
Well, I know that the Oakland Seals, who were originally the California Seals, and then they actually had a minor league team called the San Francisco Seals, but when the NHL expanded in 1966, 67, they had 6 franchises. I think St. Louis and Minnesota and Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and there was, I guess, the team in Anaheim, or no, not Anaheim, the LA Kings. The Seals were one of them, but they didn't do very well. Charlie Finley owned them. They didn't draw well. They didn't play well.
Charlie Finley owned them?
For a brief time.
Okay.
And they moved to Cleveland and became the Barons. And then I thought it was my understanding that Barons disbanded and most of their players went to Minnesota, but I'm not entirely sure.
But is that your final answer?
Yeah, I guess so.
That's correct. Yeah. The Minnesota North Stars.
Thank you for not embarrassing me by asking me what I thought the answer was.
Here's the thing. The Minnesota North Stars were around. I don't know why the North Stars got to absorb the Cleveland Barons. That doesn't make sense to me because they were like any other NHL team. Maybe they were a team that was floundering and they decided to
get the money.
Or also the distance.
But no. But think about it. Why would you take, if a team is folding, why would one team get all that?
Maybe they were so bad that they needed to.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Or they could afford to pick up the contracts.
Yeah. I don't know.
So we have Buddy Sotelo. I thought we had Russell Jackman here, but we also
have we had Kenji Shibuya and Mitsu Alakawa and Red Bastien and Bearcat Wright and Ray Stevens. Those are names that most people don't remember.
No, now they got and then there was another segment of the Undertaker.
Yeah.
And,
I like the old the guys back in that I mentioned.
Yeah, the 60s.
The 60s.
Well, the 60s just lost one of their main icons.
Oh, that is
Bruno
Oh,
Sammartino.
yeah.
And
How old was he?
he was 82.
Well, that's a good life.
And he was champion for most of the late 60s and mid 70s.
Now, you say champion. Were these guys actually, were these fights on the up and up, or were they?
No, they weren't. They,
Yeah.
and that was the thing, is that Bruno Sammartino went back to what we call kayfabe, the days of kayfabe, which is that they acted as if it was real, and the audience bought into that. And I was just talking to a friend of mine last night about how that all emerged and how things have changed in today's era, much like we were talking about baseball a couple of minutes ago, is that back in the 60s and 70s, the only real combat sports that you could watch on TV were boxing and wrestling. There was no MMA. There was no, there was no Ultimate Fighting Championship. So
or
if you
Coliseum Lions.
No, or anything like that. I mean, so, maybe on Wide World of Sports, you'd see karate every once in a while.
Roller derby.
Or you'd see, actual wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling in the Olympics. But by and large, the only time you get to see any kind of regular combat sports would be on wrestling. Even you think about boxing, Wide World of Sports would have it on every so often, but it wasn't a weekly thing, not a serialized thing like wrestling became. And wrestling told a storyline that was behind everything.
Like good guy, bad guy.
Yeah, guys were fighting for a championship. They would, one guy would come out and, exactly, and beat one guy up and take his title, and then that guy would go and follow him and try to get the title. And usually that guy if he was a bad guy with the help of his manager, like what I used to do, would go in and interfere and keep that guy from winning a title over and over again.
You guys.
And that would be we call it a build up, and then you'd have some kind of big event that you'd call the blow off, where that guy would go and get his revenge and body slam.
Let me interrupt you for a second, because
Yes.
you played the bad guy manager who would sometimes interfere.
Right.
Yeah, how would
Was
you
your life?
interfere?
Well, I could see. You distract the referee, and you hit him with a chair or something like that, or whatever, throw salt in his eyes. But question for you is, because the audience may or may not have known, you got to think most people kind of knew, but still got frustrated, right? So, was your life ever threatened, or was there any real danger you were in?
No, thank God that never happened to me. Although here's a good mini story: is that Vinny Massaro, my quote unquote cousin that I was taking to the ring, I was managing him to the ring. We once we were in Pacifica, and we were so hated in Pacifica. People would throw Vinny just knew how to just get the crowd
Pacifica,
going. They were just a very rabid crowd in Pacifica, whatever reason.
Was this the 90s or?
No, 2000.
Oh,
it's like 2000.
I thought they were more sophisticated, but okay.
No, not Pacifica.
Where did they actually?
Pacifica High.
Oh, Pacifica High.
Yeah,
okay.
and
probably because it's always foggy in Pacifica.
Yeah.
Those who don't know, Pacifica is just south of San Francisco on the coast. It's always foggy there.
Or if the Knicks have run out of crab salad sandwiches, that would make.
Knicks.
That will make you upset.
So anyway, this kid in the front row threw an entire cup of white hot coffee all over Vinny. It missed me, but
ouch.
Vinny, that's one of the things. He's supposed to be a tough guy, so he went in and shook it off and
beat the hell out of the kid.
No, we didn't touch the kid at all. We had his match. It was a good match. And then after the match, who was waiting right outside the locker room to get an autograph from us?
Really?
Yeah.
The guy who threw the coffee.
The guy had, issues. He was what you would call, a special education type.
So you gave him a little wide berth.
And because for him it was so real. What we were doing was hard for him to separate out the reality from what he was watching.
It's okay to kind of yell, "I hate you" or something, but don't throw hot coffee.
Let's put it this way: in every kung fu film you've ever seen, nobody ever got punched.
No,
right?
They missed by about 3 inches.
Right, but you watch it and you are affected by it. You say, "Oh, Bruce Lee's one of the great martial artists." Chuck Norris, one of the great martial artists. Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal couldn't beat up like somebody's grandmother at this stage. But of course they pay actors to flip around and do all that stuff. Staged fighting is something that we as a culture have always gone and given that belief of that kayfabe level of it.
Well, good.
And we still
finish
do.
off the story though. Did he give him the autograph?
Oh yeah, we gave him an autograph and shook his hand, and he was as happy to meet us as anybody. But in the moment, because going to ringside, we just elicit that much emotion from people.
Yeah.
That sometimes people have that hard time to differentiate, and it is a lot of that thing that you want to have a bad guy that you can you can revile against.
How often do you go off script?
That wasn't. We would know that a guy would win, but the wrestlers themselves would do a very long time of figuring out in the locker room how they were going to do their match, what moves they were going to do, and stuff doesn't go right all the time. So sometimes you have to tell the ref, we're going to take this thing home because this guy's hurt.
Oh yeah,
I've seen guys get
I've seen guys, just just things seem to go on for minutes and minutes. You can tell they're just catching their breath.
That's part of it. That's part of it. They shouldn't. They should be able to be in shape. They should call a match well enough that they have the high spots and the action spots interspersed with time that they have rest holds, or they're outside the ring,
So one that's scripted, let's say, so that Mr. Jones is going to beat Mr. Smith.
Tony Jones replacing my friend Mark Smith.
Something like that. Okay,
I know it. Jones and the Smith.
Would the intended loser ever kind of go, no, I screw this. I
want to win.
That is what's known as a potatoing, and it happens. Yeah, when one guy gets really fed up with another guy botching his spots, and he drops him and he stiffs him, he does the wrong move to somebody, and the guy gets clocked in the face or something like that. The other guy will just respond back and beat the living hell out of him.
We've literally heard it.
Oh yeah, I've seen that happen.
Well, no, but I mean, where the guy who was supposed to win doesn't win because the guy
happened. It's happened, and when it has happened, the ref doesn't really know what's going on. So sometimes
because the ref's supposed to know ahead of time who's going to win.
And then back in the locker room, you have a lot of problems. You have a lot of people really furious that the storylines are shot, or a guy who was supposed to win a title, that was promised to get a title, doesn't get a title. Yeah, it's live acting. So
but don't some guys get tired of saying, I'm tired of being a loser. I want to be a winner.
They do.
Well, I remember when Hulk Hogan first came out, he was a bad guy, and then someone decided at some point he was a good guy.
Yeah, no, it does happen where guys say, I'm tired of the one thing that's difficult is in the WWE now, it's basically a monopoly. In the major leagues of wrestling. If you really want to be a star, you got to be in the WWE. So what Vince McMahon says goes, and if he says it's time for you to be a good guy, and you're like, but I just don't do that sort of thing. They go, well, it's your time. You got to you're out, and that's you're all independent contractors in the WWE.
Interesting.
It's sort of like the Don King of boxing. Where he basically, we're setting you up to beat this, or not staged so much, but he decides who's gonna. Fight
he's the kingmaker, and he's the one that says, I like your look, and if I want to advance you, you're going to advance. It doesn't matter that you're necessarily so physically talented. Like, for instance, this lady wrestler named Bailey, and she's from here. She's from the Bay Area, and I worked with her. She's really fantastic, but she gets stuck in some storylines where she has to lose a lot because they know she'll still be popular even if she loses, as opposed to other folks that if they don't win, they're either not going to get enough heat as bad guys, or they're not going to get enough cheers as good guys.
Well, I think about like Ronda Rousey. So, I mean, she's a very pretty lady.
She just came in in WrestleMania. She was just fighting in WrestleMania.
How'd she do?
Horrible. That was a horrible match. But it was mainly because it involved Stephanie McMahon, who's Vince McMahon's daughter, fighting her, and she's not very good. And it had Triple H, who's now my age, which is a little scary about it. He's still in great shape, but it featured some people who are on the older side, wrestling, and with Ronda, who's not really skilled in wrestling either. It was more of a let's pay attention to it because of the people involved match than it is because you wanted to see a lot of really good wrestling.
Yeah, because I got to say that I when I was a kid, I loved watching big time wrestling, is what they called it back then. And then
Roy Shire production here in the Bay Area.
Yeah, that was bringing with Walt Harris as your announcer.
Yes.
Is that his name?
Yeah, Walt Harris. I remember Ray Stevens hated Walt Harris.
Yeah.
They always used to, he called him, hey, you pencil neck.
But it's interesting because as things got more theatrical and you had these bigger wrestlers, Stone Cold and all these other guys. The one thing I did notice was these guys were actually a lot more athletic than the guys in the 60s. It was
Oh, yeah.
it's incredible.
But that's the way sports is, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
exactly.
mean, we've seen sports
More
make that
specialized.
same
Yeah.
same thing. You could see
Basketball, what they can do now.
when I look at
hardcore
hardcore classics, on the NBA channel, and they show stuff from the 70s. And you
Yeah.
see guys who look like, they could be like gym teachers maybe.
Yeah.
But they
Except for
they're-
Dr. J, of course.
Yeah.
and
Dr. J.
but there's maybe one on the
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
Other guys were, folks that are, balding hairlines and regular big horn rimmed glasses out there, and you'd say they
Kurt
get
Rambis,
killed. Yeah, well, no, Kurt was a tough guy.
He was really
Yeah,
good,
I give him credit. He could probably play in today's era, but a lot of the folks from I think the 60s that were
They couldn't even play on a college team. Some of them.
yeah, and because the athletic level has been kicked up so
Yeah.
much.
Well, you know why that is? Because of now, guys don't have to have off-season jobs. They can do this all year round because they're making so much good money.
And that was kind of the way it was with wrestling too, is that a lot of wrestlers didn't always wrestle all the time, and they were piano movers and they were, bouncers at bars.
Well, yeah, you couldn't make a living just.
Yeah,
with
no.
wrestling.
I knew a guy who actually wanted to be a bouncer at a bar just because he wanted to get into fights. Seriously.
Those are the kind of
I
guys
don't want to
that
be
wind up being
employer.
wrestlers.
Well, that's the kind of guy you want as a bouncer, though, because
Or
he's
as
not
a
going to
wrestler.
take. You don't want to take any guff.
I don't want to
Yeah.
get the lawsuits that come out of
Yeah.
it. All right, hey guys, another trivia question here. This one I think you guys will know.
Okay.
Kite flying is a professional sport in which country?
Really?
Kite flying?
You're talking about getting up on a like a hang glider?
No, like
Oh, just
flying a kite.
Flying
No,
a
flying
kite is an
It's a,
official
it's a
sport.
professional sport in which country? I thought you'd know this. All right.
Oh, all right.
I used to have one, so I actually know what the answer to this is.
Really?
You
Okay,
do?
don't touch that down.
Oh.
Sports Econ 101.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
I have no idea.
I had a fighting kite.
A fighting kite?
Yeah.
What does that mean? That you could like knock another kite out of the sky or
Yes.
something?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It had a little like.
They had that in the movie, not Slumdog Millionaire, but what's the one with the kids? Oh, I can't remember.
You know what a friend of mine
I
did
think
once?
they
He
did
had-
have something about that in some Dog Million.
friend of mine had a 22 caliber rifle back in the day.
Okay, no, we didn't. We didn't do that.
Shoot the kites out
He
there.
used to shoot the kites out of the
Okay,
air.
yeah.
There's been a lot of kites, a lot of kids flying kites in our neighborhood, and he'd hide in a tree and shoot the kites out of the air. The kids would go, "What happened to my kite?"
I mean, it's sad but funny.
Back in those days, I remember all the kids wanted was a rifle or a BB gun.
Yeah.
Everybody got one. It was part of the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, now
They
all
shoot
kids are
them
getting
out.
rifles, but they're AR-15s, and they're getting 1,000 rounds.
I just
Yeah,
do not
that's-
understand this whole thing about guns and why people are so.
I don't know
They
why.
use that Second Amendment, which is so outdated and doesn't say anything.
Well,
That says nothing about you have a right to own a gun. It's talking
No,
about a free militia.
That's what it's supposed to be against the. It's
against the government. Well, if take
the government,
that one step further, if you're actually going to fight the government, you think you want to fight the army with even if you have your own arsenal? I don't think so.
No. Well, I think the idea again, way back then too,
Yeah.
is okay. So like right now, remember how the Russians had a really hard time in Afghanistan because
Oh, yeah.
there's all these pockets of stuff,
Yeah.
and these guys they have
that
no
wasn't like-
ammunition of anything. you
we
couldn't
were
do anything.
supplying the Afghans
Yeah.
with
No,
a lot
I
of
don't forget that
weaponry.
part. I'm talking about just the idea that if you had, let's put it this way, if I'm not advocating for this, but if every single person in this country had a gun,
Right.
a 6-shooter,
Right.
I think the army would have a hard time.
Well, if
Fighting every
they
human
mobilize,
being who's got
if they mobilize,
Guys, we had that in the Wild West, and
Yeah,
the
well, not
army
really
never
though.
tried to
Not
take
really.
over.
Not that many people had guns in the Wild West. Everybody says they did,
You know,
but not that
they were
many.
very expensive.
Very expensive, and
Yeah.
it was very rare actually.
Yeah.
A lot
Okay.
less shootings in those days, believe it or not, than there are today.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot more violence today. Well, I think
But-
people also are just a little more violent in general today.
Trure.
They're more on edge. Look at you. You're all fidgeting and,
I know.
and thinking about your next thing you got to do.
That's
and
true.
give me another cup of coffee.
Give me-
God damn it!
come on,
I gotta get
Don't
out of
swear.
here.
Don't swear. We got the key.
Oh, sorry. Don't mean to use profanity. Somebody out there maybe watching with a
Little
7-year-old.
kid, yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
my kids already know all the profanities.
Oh.
They're teaching me new ones.
My kid. Yeah, I was just gonna say my kid teach me new ones. Okay, ready?
Yes.
There we go. We got just a couple minutes left.
Okay.
And good timing because you're gonna have to go anyway.
Yes, you don't run out.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan and our special co-host, Russell Jackman. Third trivia question. Kite flying is a professional sport in which country? And Russell, you said you knew this.
Yeah, I used to have a Thai fighting kite. When I was-
So Thailand?
Yeah.
Thailand, very good.
Yeah.
I would have said somewhere in Asia for some
Yeah.
reason. I don't know
And
why.
I guess that's right. That's what the professional sport is. It's not just who can have the kite
Yeah.
highest. It's the fighting of them. Right?
Yeah,
Oh.
they have like barbs on the strings, and they
Wow.
have little hooks on the kites themselves. So you try to swerve them into
It's sort
other
of
kites and
it's
knock
like,
them down.
Knock
It's like
down.
the Ben Hur. Remember the classic
Oh,
Ben Hur
sure.
movie?
It's tough. Those
Yeah.
kites are really hard to maneuver.
Yeah.
Oh, that.
But once you got what happened to my kite was that I was flying it over at McKegney Green in Tiburon, right? And I wanted to see how far it could go, right?
Oh,
Yeah, and guess
big
what?
mistake.
Hit an airplane.
No, the string wasn't tied at the very end.
So
of the-
it just
the
flew off.
score.
Huh?
It just flew.
Ended up in the bay, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Ended up in the
So in
bay
other words, you were
flew
like
on off.
polluting the air
with a kite.
with a
No
kite.
more Richardson Bay. And
Richardson
the mud of Richardson
Did
Bay.
you see it end up in the bay?
Yeah. And there's
Just
no
kind of
retrieving it.
gently floated down.
Yeah, no retrieving it from there.
No, not at all.
It's like
Interesting.
what is it? What do you call it when you litter?
Yeah.
You littered the planet with your kite.
Oh,
Thank you very
Richardson
much,
Bay,
buddy
I think
Sotelo.
Richardson Bay, anything you can throw into Richardson Bay right now could only improve.
That's true.
For those who don't
Absorb
know-
something.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Richardson Bay is actually a very pretty area. Basically,
Just don't swim in it.
Just north of the Golden Gate. Yeah.
I mean,
in
what
San
makes it so
Francisco Bay.
dirty? Just,
Don't hang out at
Well,
low
it's
tide.
very shallow.
Well,
Yeah.
and now that have you heard about Hunter's Point? There's been a whole lot of toxic stuff
Yeah.
that was dumped into the bay.
well,
it's
it's Hunter's,
Sausalito.
it's Hunter's Point. It deserves it.
You got to remember, Sausalito was a
Yes.
place where there was a lot of activity on
Military.
the
Oh,
waterfront,
yeah.
military and so on.
Military, yeah. I just
Yeah.
went to the World War II Museum in New Orleans.
Oh.
They did a very good job on that. Hey
Yeah.
guys, we have to cut out for today. Here's our thoughts for the day. I've learned so much from my mistakes. I'm thinking of making a few more. And I don't
like that.
suffer from insanity. I enjoy every minute of it.
Uh,
All right, tune in next
I
week
like
to
that
Sports
one, too.
Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions.
that's easy for you to
That
say.
is the middle, yeah. Thanks for that's all, folks. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
Oh,
Salute.
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 Okay, good
Oh, that
job,
was
guys.
fun, guys.
Salute.
That was fun.
Oh, right on time too.
Russell,
Russell, you got
it's an
to
enjoyable time having you on.
park down here. It's
Yeah.
you don't have to talk.
I found the space right in front of
Oh,
the.
did you? Oh,
yeah.
good.
So literally.
Oh,
I mean,
hey, Bruce.
Yeah.
Next week,
Next week.
I am out.
Okay.
You're
out.
Well, I'm only out on Thursday. So can we record
To
on
Friday.
Wednesday the 5th? No, I'm out.
Wednesday.
Wednesday 25th?
Yeah, sure. Just remind me. Send me a
Okay.
text or something.
Bruce, always great to
Yeah,
see
good
you.
to see you, man.
Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Seeing you online.
Hey.
Good to see you. Thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
let me know when you have that posted just on Facebook, and I'll share it on my
Okay,
Facebook site
What
oh,
is
I
this,
got a
anyway?
stream here.
Edward, what is this?
That if you open it up, you can put your cell phone like
Or it's
this.
the world's worst razor.
Oh, I see. So you go like, oh,
All right, guys.
hey,
See you later.
oh, I
Thanks.
see. Oh,
Have a
how
good
cool.
weekend.
So you can, if you have
Yeah.
a conversation with somebody and
Exactly.
that is so cool. Where'd you get that?
But here, just take it. I got an extra one.
Yeah, really? Oh,
Actually, you know
okay.
what? Let me switch because look at that. You got a blue one. We'll give you blue.
Oh, thanks.
Look at
man.
that. That's right in.
You sure?
Got an extra one.
How's the daughter doing? Actually,
Good. She's gonna come visit us in June.
Oh, nice. That's weird. My phone, whenever I get a phone call or a text, it's not making any noise anymore. And I check my settings and everything's turned on. I don't know what's going on.
Just turn off, turn on.
Yeah,
Or
I did that.
restart.
I did that. I
Hmm.
don't know. I should check the surf right now because I'm not going to go right now, but I'm going to go. Late. Yesterday was so windy, but there were actually
Yeah.
waves. There were actually good waves. Okay, let's see what's going on in
Hey,
ocean.
you should invite one of your professional surfing buddies. You can have a show on surfing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know. Otis. We had Otis on before. He was talking more about mountain biking.
Yeah.
But I have a friend of mine who's a big wave surfer, Grant Washburn, and he's always taking part in the Mavericks thing.
Oh, but
He was
you know what?
actually
That
one of
would
the
be fun.
original Mavericks guys.
Well, that would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
See if he wants to join us.
Oh, 5 to 6 feet at Ocean Beach, very good condition.
Good. Well, I know where you're going to
Maybe
be.
I should go to Ocean Beach.
Sure.
Yeah, why not? On my way to work. Looks nice.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
I've done it a few times once in a while.
USA snowboarder Jamie Anderson.
Okay. Thank you. So annoying.
I know, it's like